this probably comes as a surprise to nobody, but we're going to take a look at the 10.7 patch notes tonight, try and figure out what decks we want to play after this drops. And if you're curious about my thoughts on the Renfree and neutral cards, since I didn't make a video on those, or the Nilfgaard ones the other day, we'll do that at the end of this video. So, let's take a look at what we've got to start with. Alzur is going to a Knight. Well, has a Knight tag. That's pretty neat. Makes sense, but I'm not sure it does much synergistic-wise. Knights pretty much just have the new synergies in Northern Realms, which is cool, but I'm not sure how well he does there, because they don't typically run a lot of spells. I mean, Sabrina's Inferno's a spell, but usually you don't play that, and you don't usually play the... Well, maybe you could play mixed Knights with Mages, but I don't think it's worth it just for Alzur. We'll see. It's pretty interesting either way. Olgierd Immortal is a really cool one, though. So he's going from 8 to 10 power. This is a big deal for Alchemist decks, mainly, because Alchemists, you have usually did Living Armor. The problem with Living Armor is that once he gets damaged, his armor goes down and he's less good to swap with. Olgierd going to 10 is really good because now you have a second 10 target in case they do something with your Living Armor, and in case you don't draw your Living Armor, it's actually just better because they can't interact with it as easily. They can't, I don't know, like Tourney, Joust, Elzur's Thunder your Living Armor down to 5 and it becomes bad to do. With Olgierd Immortal, they'd have to like Heat Wave it or something, so this is actually really good for Alchemist decks, and we're going to try those out later on. Now, a card I think most people agree they wanted to change to is Ornate Censor. So first, its provisions going from 9 to 10, and secondly, its abilities being changed. So boost an allied unit by the amount of damage dealt to enemy units this turn, or damage enemy unit by the amount of boost given to an allied units this turn. I'm quite glad this is getting changed. Ornate Censor is so annoying to be blown out by, and there are so many RNGs. Like, I have 2/2s, you have 2/2s, who's going to get the boost, stuff like that. I didn't like it, but this ability is much more interesting. So boosting the allied by the amount of damage you dealt has a higher ceiling than the damage effect. So that one's going to typically be better. How would you deal a whole bunch of damage to enemy units in one turn and then play this card? Order or leader ability. It's the ways you'd probably do this. Immediate things that come to mind for this would be something like the leader doing damage. So Blaze of Glory might make use of this. But you'd want your ace to live a turn first, and that's pretty much a devotion deck, so you're not going to run it there, but something like that, where you do damage with orders. You could potentially save a bunch of Skellige orders, Northern Realms orders. Big one would be if you had a duel left up, and you could duel something. This would be pretty good, like if you had a shield wall on your Saltkirk, and then it dueled something, you could do that. Harder to use. And then we have damage enemy by the amount of boost given to an allied unit this turn. This could work very well in Self-Wound, because you're getting a really big boost on your Restore turn and on your Sigvald turn. So you could have a really big removal card in the deck there. But for 10 provisions, not sure you'd do that. Overall, though, glad this card got changed. Sayana power from 3 to 5. This is really good for her. She's still in the most removal ranges, but thankfully she's not in like Coup removal range or Disarray removal range, so this is helpful to her. And if you ever transform Sahil into, you get either Regis or her, so she's, I guess, more points maybe now. I'm not sure. But yeah, I like seeing her buff. She's hard to use. We've got Vivian Oriole, so her provision is going from 10 to 9, and with more scenarios out, she gets a lot more interesting to play. So at 9, potentially going up to 4, being worth 15 points on a scenario. That's good point slam value. I could see it. Although, usually we'll have to see how the cultist scenario plays out, but I could see running this. Now, monsters changes. So there's some generic changes to all the factions here, which are all of the evolving cards get to evolve instead of transform. And what that means is that they keep armor statuses, ability infusions, and power changes in the process. This is amazing for Ethne because there's so much hand buffing with the Bountiful Harvest. So often you put the points on Ethne, then she transforms and you lose them. So I'm glad this is getting fixed. Well, fixed/change. You can armor them, infuse them with abilities. Very glad they're changing that. But yeah, so all the evolving cards are having that change, so I'm not going to mention them all individually. So other than that, Monsters only has one change, which is kind of weird, but let's see what it is. Necker Warrior, power from 4 to 7. Okay, so now it's just a non-devotion Conqueror with ability deploy. If this will not trigger Thrive, damage self by 3 and infuse with Thrive. So if you don't trigger Thrive with Necker Warrior, it's old Necker Warrior. Okay, this is not like Conqueror then. This is interesting. Having a 4 for 7 that doesn't require devotion for a Thrive deck is nice. Like, this is definitely nice for a Thrive deck. But you definitely want to be triggering the devotion. I can see it being pretty good though. I think the new scenario would trigger its +2 boost before Necker Warrior did, because I think existing... What happens if you play like a... No, it's the deploys go first. Deploys go first because you lock the cards. So this would check first before that. That's an interesting interaction though, because I don't think we've had anything like that. I'm not too sure how that one would interact specifically, but having a 7 for 4 you can just throw down is nice in a Thrive deck, so maybe this sees play now. Moving on to Skellige, Nilfgaard got the Clash keyword, as did Croc on Crate. I'm pretty sure everyone knew that was going to happen. But then we have Gedenieth got his name changed to Gedenieth Shadow. I'm not sure why. Don't care either way. That's fine, I guess. And then, oh, we got a nerf. Guys, this is a big one. I feel this one. Melusine replaced Veil with Deploy Gain Veil. Feels bad. So, for those of you who don't know, 3-round Melusine was like the first video I made. Like, first deck that really popular. And we've made several videos on this deck. And even with the revives now and the self-wound on Melusine. So, what this does is it means you can only replay Melusine once without purifying her. And when you replay her, she doesn't get the Veil, so she can be locked. So, you can't revive Melusine 3 times without purifying your deck anymore. That's really annoying, because she gains the Doomed. The Veil stopped her from getting Doomed when you revived her. I can see why this is a problematic interaction they want to deal with, but it still feels really bad, because that was one of my favorite decks. But you can run a Purify and purify it off. Usually you didn't revive her 3 rounds anyway, unless you're like going against a deck you knew didn't have control, like a Devotion, like Devotion Symbiosis. You knew they didn't have a way to deal with her, so there you'd play her every round. But against other decks you didn't have it, and you always draw her anyway. So it feels bad, but I can see why. Now we get to a really interesting one, Northern Realms. So leader rework. Hopefully they rework Lockdown too. I haven't looked that far yet. Royal Inspiration. So it's a 15 provision bonus. The ability changes from the boost by 1 every other turn to this. Order boost by 5. Okay, that's good. 5 boosts is a lot. If this triggers Grace, refresh the order and reduce the boost by 1. So if this triggers Grace every time, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 15 points. That's a really lot of value. So you definitely want to be triggering Graces with this. This is really cool. Very, very thematic. And I think I said this in the card preview. I expect some cards to get Grace added to them. So let's take a look if they did that. Reynard Odo, power change from 6 to 7. Okay. Provision cost from 9 to 8. Sure. So he's going to be a 7 for 8. That's good. That's very good for anything with engine value. Whenever you play a unit, boost it by 1. Okay, so I don't see formation here. I guess he's losing formation and just getting the base power increased. And losing the order. That's probably fine. Grace 12. Boost all boosted ally units by 1. Ooh, that's a big one. Okay, Reynard Odo. These Grace boosts, like boosting is not the most fun type of synergistic effect, like boosting all your cards. But if you have it with synergies with the Grace and stuff, it becomes much more interesting. So you can do this with Queen Meve, and she'll boost everything. You can Meve boost everything on Reynard's left, and then player next on the left of Reynard. She'll boost everything with her timer. And then if that boosts Reynard to 12, he can trigger his Grace like that. That'd be pretty cool. Not to mention, if you use the new leader and boost him by 5, that gets the Grace 12 and triggers it. Very interesting effect. Then we have Vandergrift. He's going from 8 to 9 provisions. So he's a 6 for 8 with Shield Resilience now, which is really good for Shield Ball decks. He has a new ability. No, new part of the ability. Grace 12, so their Grace card to gain Resilience. Okay. So kind of like the Sausage Maker, kind of like She Who Knows. You can have him carry over into all 3 rounds this way. right? Because he has resilience round 1. You boost him up to 12 the next round. He gets resilience again. Carries over to round 3. I like it. I like it. And Vandergriff's Blade. By the way, I've been playing a Vandergriff's Blade deck on and off the past couple months, trying to make Knights work. Very glad Knights got a change. And I must say, this card is really bad as it is right now. Deploy. Damage enemy by 5. Amazing. The swords all deal damage. Can you imagine that? I can. It makes a lot of sense. So Death Blow, store the destroyed unit's power. The next time you play a unit, boosted by the stored amount, then destroy self. This is really cool, really synergistic with the Knights. Very happy with this change. So I believe yeah, so this is really cool. It's really nice to have this change because it gives you a nice grace trigger. It doesn't require a leader. You can double up with this and the leader. And yeah, this seems really cool. I like it a lot. And we have Windhelm of Atyr has a new part. Atri, how do you say his name? Sorry, Windhelm. So he's got Grace 10, Order, Gain, Shield. Okay, this is nice, because Windhelm always loses his shield at some point. People like ping it off, and usually if the shield wall leader put the shield back on and boosted by 2, and that boost usually plays into some kind of tall removal. So having a way for him to get his shield back once he gets to a middle amount of points, say you use a Citron Artificer to reshield him, that's nice. It's nice to have this option here. And he's a knight, so it's very fitting. Citron Knight. Grace 6, boost self by 2. This is the guy who's, what, he hit 2, and he does 2 damage with Death Blow, give Vitality, I believe. Is this one? We'll pull it up here in a minute. But yeah, so Citron Knight having Grace 6, boost self by 2. It just gives him more value as a 4 provision card. And when the cards came out with the shields, or the Grace cards and the Knights, I didn't think there was going to be enough without having changes to the other cards. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of changes to the Grace, giving Grace to the Knights. I'm a big fan. So we've got Mad Charge then. I already thought Mad Charge was actually kind of good. It has boost by 5 and give 2 armor. So that's Tempering's effect on a dwarf. Right there. And if it's a knight, give 2 vitality. Well, Tempering looks worse now. But yeah, this is pretty good. Tempering goes on good cards though. Usually. Or it triggers nature with symbiosis. So I can see that. But this is a good card. 5 boost and 2 armor. That's really good for protection. And then the 2 vitality gives it 7 value with extra armor. This seems good now. Big fan. And Redanian Knight. So Grace 8 boosts adjacent units by 1. I kind of thought they would have exchanged the exposed to Grace, but they added the Grace. He's going to boost himself up eventually. So I'm wondering if there's enough Knight cards now that they actually have a pretty good deck. We'll be trying out Knights for sure. This is cool. Scoia'tael. Let's see. Percival is going from 7 to 6 provisions. Okay, good. I can see that. He usually plays for 4 and dies or gets locked, so that's fine. Dryad Fledgling, power change from 4 to 5. So Waters of Brocklon got buffed. Is there anything that does 4 damage to 2 things? Not really. Zoltan Warrior does 3. Hey, are there any nerfs on this list, by the way? Other than, Censor? All buffs. Okay. Okay, sure. So Dried Fledgling going from 4 to 5. Really nice. I was actually... anyone who watches the channel knows I play Harmony a lot. I've been playing Harmony with the 4 power Dried Fledglings in it to get summoned off of the Saskia Commander. And they're okay, but at 5, it gives you 2 more base points, and those base points are really handy because Tourney Joust and stuff just deal with everything. 4 damage removals. At 5 power, it's much better. And the important thing about 5 power is for Call of Harmony, what you usually do, you go round 3, you Waters into leader, and what that'll do now is the Dana will now trigger your Dried Fledglings up to 6. So you have 2 6s and a 7 with Harmony. It's way better than 2 5s and a 7. Because when you get 2 5s after playing the leader ability, you just kill one off and you're stuck down at 2 engines. These going to 6 after the Call of Harmony is actually a pretty big deal. So we'll have to see how good that is. I am so excited to run Harmony again. It's going to be fantastic. Oh, we have a nerf. Farseer, precision change from 5 to 6. I mean, I can see it. Farseer, they played it round... They like used their buffs round 1, and then they play Farseer, and then they get what? Farseer boosts Torque by 8, and then that Torque boosts something else by 8, and Farseer is playing for like 21 points. It's ridiculous. So, I'm... As much as Hand Buff is a deck that isn't like super meta, this card was probably too strong. So, not too mad about this one. Although, hand buff's a deck where if it gets meta, it's really annoying, right? Because you either have Innis or you don't. Forest Whispers is a card I've wanted to be changed. So, power from 4 to 3, provision cost from 5 to 4. So this makes the poison package cheaper. No Dryad Ranger change, so that card's still where it is. With all the changes to Harmony, I kind of hope they change some of the bronzes, but it looks like we're not getting that. So, yeah, I just Dryad Fledgling buffs are nice though. We'll be trying out Harmony quite a bit here. Last faction we've got Nilfgaard, Glynis from 7 to 6. Oh, it's not last faction, we Syndicate. Yeah, from 7 to 6 provisions. Nice. Glynis doesn't see much play, even in Assimilate decks. And then that's it there. And the Syndicate has a few. So we've got Passiflora, changed to 1 night at the Passiflora. That's a long night. They're changing the ability. So we have Progress when you play a Blind Eye. Sure. The Blind Eyes aren't great, though. I guess you have Shady Vendors, a Blind Eye, right? That one's really good. So, Prologue, Spawn, Seductress. Okay, so we got Seductress before Peaches. I like it. And then we've got Chapter 1, play the features. Okay, so we get the 2 engines first and the coins last. I think this is what it used to be before the scenario got nerfed. Although changing the ordering on the cards here. It's good. I like to see the change. Passiflora compared to In Search of Forgotten Treasures, whatever, just seemed really bad. This is better, but I'm not sure you'd play this over In Search of Forgotten Treasures ever, really. But spawning the 2 engines earlier is definitely kind of a big deal. I like it. I like it. Sir Skewertooth from 7 to 6 provisions. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe then he finally ceases to play again. Although I've seen it a couple times here. Fistic Trafficker gets Blind Eye. Thank you. It was so annoying to me that Fistic Trafficker didn't have a gang category, right? Like, why didn't this card have a gang? So yeah, being in the Blind Eyes is really nice. This is helpful for the scenario here for Passiflora. This is helpful for anyone running Collusion, because usually you want the Poison package. In most Syndicate decks, the 2 Fistics, the 2 Fistic Traffickers, you try to run those in a lot of Syndicate decks. But you didn't have room for that in the Collusion decks because you need to fit the gang categories in. But with the Trafficker now having a gang, it's perfect for Collusion. It's got a deploy effect. It's low value. They don't want to remove it, but then it boosts up your Collusion. This is the perfect type of card that Collusion wants to see. So that's cool. The Salamandra made Tribute change from 4 to 5 on the cost. Yeah, that card was really good. The Tribute was playing for like 1.5 coins. 1.5 points per coin, which is really high. So glad, I don't mind this change. It also changes the math on the King of Beggars a little bit. So yeah, overall pretty cool changes here. A little sad there's not more nerfs. I mean, like, kind of figured Stockpile would have gotten a change somewhere in here, the Stockpile Siege deck. But I guess with the ideas with the new cards, it won't be so oppressive. Although I'm questionable on that one. We'll see. We will see. And then, like I said here, we'll look at the last of the Black Sun cards, the Nilfgaard cards, and the neutrals, which I did not make a video on yesterday because I was busy. And we'll start with Nilfgaard. So, we first of all have the Eternal Eclipse Initiate. Human Cultist. So all the Nilfgaard cards are cultists. I did look these over already. I just didn't make a video. So, Human Cultist, 4 for 4. Order infuse a bronze unit with whenever your opponent plays the cultist. Damage self by 1. Death Wish, spawn a base copy of self on opposite row and set its power to 1. Infuse it with the cultist category. I'm assuming this means a cultist, not the cultist. But yeah, so you have an order to infuse. So you have to wait a turn for this. And then potentially has a lot of value though. If you have a fair amount of cultists, you can get some cultists here, but with no cultist tags added to their Nilfgaard cards. Cultist is kind of a self-contained thing. I'm not sure how I feel about this. It reminds me a lot of the Patience when they first added the students before the rest of the cards. So I'm guessing they're going to expand on this later. But as it is with just 4 cards, 2 are bronzes, sure you have 6, but it doesn't seem like the best thing ever. Really wanted soldier support. Also would have liked to see spying support, but we'll take what we get here. So yeah, infuse a bronze enemy with whenever your opponent plays it. plays a cultist, damage self by 1. So what basically happens is you wait a turn, put this on something, play cultist so that unit dies, and you get another cultist on your field, and it goes to 1 power. That's fine. It's okay. If you're playing cultist, you're running it. That's pretty much all this is. If you're playing cultist, you play all these cards. So, Eternal Eclipse Deacon. Human cultist, 5 for 5. Infuse a unit in your hand with the cultist category. If you're playing cultist, you need this effect. Otherwise, you don't have enough. And then order infuse a unit in your deck with cultist category. So it's a 5 for 5. It all lets give you more cultists. Sure, I guess. I'm not too excited about the cultist cards. I can see them fitting in a lot of Nilfgaard decks as like a mid-rangey type option. But again, that's like mostly what Nilfgaard is nowadays. I'm not the biggest fan of it. They don't seem to have like a super strong identity in any of their decks, except other than Assimilate, right? Master of Ceremonies. So, at the start of the game, infuse 2 random non-gold units in your starting deck with cultist category. Okay, so we're giving start of the game 2 more cultists in our deck. That's very required for this faction to have enough cultists here. And in addition to that, infuse them with, after this card is played or summoned, if you have control 3 or more cultists, damage the lowest power infused enemy by 3. This seems very situational. It feels like you have to get off your initiates if you want value from that, or you have to be going up against someone just running infused cards, which with all the new cards is probably fairly likely. So this might be decent. A 7 for 7, it plays for a fair amount of value as well, and it also is a cultist itself. It can't infuse itself with its ability, but seems alright. Then we have the Eternal Eclipse scenario. Progress now you play a gold cultist. Why does it have to be a gold cultist? Why does it have to be a gold cultist? Yeah, so Master of Ceremonies is the only gold cultist in the game. So you're going to have to use Deacon. You have to use Deacon to give something and it has at least has deploy, right? Because this 2 random non-golds on this has to be a gold cultist. That's so annoying. I don't know. This seems really hard to use. I guess it stops you from triggering it by Duchess's Informanting against Skellige, because they have several cultists, so I guess you can't do that to trigger it. But you need the Deacon then. It's annoying. I don't see how you really fit this then. Prologue, display, initiative. Yeah, the initiative's fine. That makes sense. Chapter 1, infuse all of your non-disloyal cultists on the battlefield, hand and deck with whenever you play cultist, boost self by 1. Then increase the value by 1 if it was a bronze. Okay, so this is actually really interesting. It gives them all engine of value. Is that worth it, though? If there's not going to be that many cultists. So Chapter 2 spawn Deacon. Eternal Eclipse Deacon. I don't know about the cultist stuff, guys. Let me know what you think. It just, to me, feels like it's going to be hard to fit in. With, especially the gold cultists. I wish it was just regular cultists, but yeah, that's the Nilfgaard cards. Then we'll move on to the neutrals. So we have Renfri's Gang. It is a 6 for 6 bronze. If your starting deck has at least 25 units, summon all copies of self from your deck to this row. Okay, this is a big thinning card. It's a human bandit, so bandit support. Yeah, so 6 for 6, plays for 12, and thins your deck if you've got 25 units. Obviously, you have 25 units, you're playing this. It's pretty cool. I don't think many decks do that. Does hand buff run 26 units? I guess if you take out the Battle for Harvest, I think they do actually. You could run this in hand buff. I guess that makes up for the Farseer nerf. This is actually really interesting there. We have Eightbald, Human Mage, Zeal Order. So Zeal Order is nice because it's basically a deploy, but you have options there. Infuse an enemy unit with whenever your opponent plays a card, damage self by 1. Okay, so you do this early in a round, you get a whole bunch of value. Cooldown 3. Maybe play a cursed card with cooldown by 1. This is interesting. As a neutral with 11 precisions, I doubt it will see a lot of play, but as a card, it's pretty interesting, especially in Nilfgaard, because Nilfgaard can, with the deploy, with like Duchess Informants and creating cards and Assimilate, you can actually make a lot more cards than 1 a turn, and this could be very cool to try and run in there, although I don't think it'll be amazing. And then Renfri. So Renfri is a human cursed bandit. She has a very interesting effect here. So, if your starting deck has at least 25 units, create a curse to replace your leader ability. So you get a new leader ability, and create a blessing. Then create a blessing, and infuse your leader ability with it. So this is very cool. It's also very, very strong, which I guess is what they intended for Renfrey, which I'm not too mad about. But the reason this is super strong is she replaces your leader ability. If you've already used your leader ability, I think you just get it replaced with a new one. So here's a picture of all Renfrey's leader abilities. I'm not going to go through all of them here. You can take a look yourselves, but there's some very interesting ones, and they're pretty strong overall. Like, they're good leader abilities to have. So that's very nice to have. And you're creating it, so you're seeing 3 and picking it. So yeah, this looks pretty good. And there's a lot of these leader abilities are pretty good. And then the other thing is you also gain the blessing and infuse yourself with that. And the blessings are all passive effects, which are really nice. There's some of these that are very, very good, although not all passive effects, but they're very strong. A lot of them synergize with your leader, but they seem very good. If you're playing a Rune Mage deck, I wouldn't be surprised if you'd run Renfrey in it. But yeah, anything that incentivizes deck building challenges like this with 25 units, I'm a big fan of. Might be trying out hand buff with Renfrey as well in this patch, but yeah, those are the new cards. This is the new cards. There's some really cool ones. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. You excited for these? We'll be playing some of these new decks tomorrow, and hopefully it's just as fun as it looks like it'll be.